What is going on, 49er Fifth, and welcome back to another 49er Media video. And today we're going to be talking about the 49ers exclusive rights free agents. These free agents are low-cost players, players that are going to be on this offseason roster. It doesn't mean that they make the final 53-man roster, but these are guys that are possible practice squad players as well last season. And so let's get into the list. So the 49ers tendered contracts first to linebacker Jalen Graham. Jalen Graham was a 7th-round pick out of Purdue back in 2023. If you remember, maybe you don't remember, but the 49ers last season in 2024 actually ended up releasing him because he didn't make the final roster. And so it seemed like they were hoping to have him on the practice squad, but he ended up signing with the Washington Commanders practice squad. Adam Peters had some connection with him. And then the Niners were dealing with some linebacker injuries, so they ended up poaching him off of the Washington Commanders practice squad onto the 53-man roster. I'm okay with this one. I think this is totally fine. Then next up, you have Alex Barrett. He's been with the team for a very long time. For whatever reason, the Niners just love to keep him, even though he's just a practice squad guy, and he even rarely plays, even if he gets elevation. So kind of an interesting one there. Next one is defensive lineman Sam Okonowu. This was a guy that we saw on the initial roster last season, and I think some of us were surprised, but we later on found out exactly why. A great rotational guy on the defensive line, and with the lack of starters on the 49ers defensive line, he got to play more than you probably would think he got to play, but a guy that can also play inside and outside. And so I think this was a great guy to bring back, definitely after what he showed last season. Then tight end, Jake Tonjes. Another kind of off-season signing last off-season. Didn't really do too much. More of a special teams guy, if anything. I do hope the Niners, go into the draft and draft a tight end because they've been searching for that tight end too behind George Kittle. I mean, there are some solid guys in free agency, some solid vets, which I'm sure the Niners would sign someone there, but I think they definitely need to draft someone. So definitely, I'm not a big fan of this, but again, these are low cost. Some of these guys won't even make it. I'm not gonna make a big deal out of it. Then you have defensive lineman Evan Anderson. This was a guy that they signed as an undrafted free agent from Florida Atlantic, I believe it was. A guy that actually eventually made his way onto the 53-man roster. A guy that actually showed some flashes. A guy that was a good run stopper to have. Again, the Niners do need to improve this defensive line, though. And then, I mean, if you have guys like Sam Okonowu and a guy like Evan Anderson, I think that's totally fine. But definitely Evan Anderson, a guy that showed some upside as an undrafted free agent. Glad to see that he is going to be back. Then you have offensive lineman Austin Pleasants. The Niners are dealing with a lot of offensive line injuries throughout the year, and they just needed to get some offensive linemen. It was the practice squad onto the 53-man roster. I'm fine with this, having a guy on this, off-season 90-man roster. And then finally, you have tight end Mason Pline. This was a guy that they also signed as an undrafted free agent, like I mentioned with Evan Anderson. Now, Mason Pline, he, is a pretty raw prospect. Has some definitely, molding to do, but he's a guy that actually switched to tight end, I believe, when he was in college. And he, you know, I thought was a good signing for them to just have on the practice squad, be able to try to develop. I mean, this tight end room isn't the best. He was coming out of Furman. His coaches had a lot to say about him as a person, but again, super raw prospect, still trying to learn the tight end position. But I think this is a guy that I wanted them to bring back, and I'm glad they brought him back. So I'm totally fine with all of these exclusive right free agents getting tendered. Again, low cost, not gonna take too much into this, being like, oh my God, they shouldn't have signed this guy or signed this guy. I am totally fine with this. And then the last piece of news is the 49ers ended up releasing linebacker Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles. Now, Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles was already a free agent, but I guess they released him earlier so that he could possibly maybe go talk to other teams when free agency it takes place right now. Teams aren't allowed to talk to free agents. It's only their own free agents, but not other teams' free agents. But that's why it's a little bit of a confusing move to me. I get that they have Brant Boyer as their next special teams coordinator, who I'm sure had some influence on this, but I'm just a little bit confused with why they may have just released him now when he's already a free agent. If he wasn't a free agent, I totally get why they will be releasing him possibly. There's a lot more speculating to do, but I'm just unsure why they released him when he's already going to be a free agent coming up in March. Do they bring him back? Maybe. I feel like it's kind of weird though if they release him, especially now, and again aren't just letting him hit free agency. So I'm not really sure. It's a little bit weird to me, but let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. How do you feel about this exclusive right free agents getting tendered and the 49ers releasing Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles? Make sure to like and subscribe and let me know your thoughts down below. Go Niners.